Okay, so today we're going way off the beaten path
Yeah.
to a small village in India.
Buckle up.
Yeah, you might want to too.
Yeah.
Jibamanahali in Karnataka.
I'm ready.
Okay, so April 10th, 2025.
Okay.
Picture it, right? It's a small village, rural India.
Mm-hmm.
Cows probably outnumber people. Just a quiet day.
Yeah.
You'd think, if anything dramatic's going to happen, it's going to be like a,
Power outage.
power outage, a little disagreement at the local shop.
The water buffalo got loose.
Exactly right.
Something like that.
But no,
No.
something truly bizarre happened on this day.
Really bizarre.
Yeah. And, this is the kind of event that just makes you stop and think, like, how do communities work?
Especially in the modern era.
Yeah, this isn't some anonymous city incident where...
Right. It's like nobody knows anybody.
Yeah, you expect this stuff maybe,
Yeah.
but not in a small village.
Not in a small village where you would imagine everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. So on this day, a man named Nagesh
Okay.
becomes the very unwilling center of a very public and very violent episode.
Okay.
He was tied to a flagpole,
Oh, wow.
not as part of a celebration,
Right.
but because of a financial dispute with another
Right.
villager,
Okay.
Chaluvesh.
Got it.
And what starts as this disagreement over money
Money.
just takes a shocking turn.
And it's that detail
Ugh.
about a knife being allegedly brandished that I think is really important here.
Right.
Because that takes it from being a financial squabble to something much deeper and darker,
Right.
which is this perceived threat of violence.
Right.
And that kind of fear can trigger very, very intense reactions,
Well, absolutely.
both in individuals and, as we've seen, in entire communities.
Yeah, and it seems like that perceived threat, whether the intention was there or not, it acted as a catalyst for what happened.
Yeah.
And what followed looks a lot like what we would call village justice, where a group of people decide to take matters into their own hands
Right.
against Nagesh.
Against Nagesh.
So this is the knot we're going to try to untangle.
Yep.
Today, in this deep dive, this wasn't just two individuals losing control.
Yeah.
It involved a collective action, a public display,
Right.
and now the involvement of the police.
By the authorities.
And it makes us ask, like, what are the boundaries of
Self-regulation.
self-regulation in a community?
Right. And when do those boundaries get crossed?
Exactly.
When does it go too far?
So that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to closely examine what happened in Jibamanahali,
Okay.
try to understand what led up to this, and consider what it tells us about community dynamics in a world where even the most local events can have implications
Absolutely.
around the world.
Global implications, even.
Exactly.
Tiny little village India.
Yeah, let's start at the beginning
Yeah.
with the actual disagreement between Nagesh and Chaluvesh.
Right. So at the heart of this was a debt
Yes.
that Nagesh owed to Chaluvesh.
Right.
Now, we don't have the exact amount,
Right.
but from all accounts, it was not an insignificant amount of money.
Yeah. And this wasn't, just like a casual loan that somebody forgot about.
No, this had been going on.
This had been going on.
It was tension.
This was tense.
This was serious.
Yeah, this was serious.
For them.
Yeah. And then at some point during their interactions about this debt, things take a turn.
Yeah, a dramatic turn.
With the alleged appearance of a knife.
Right. And so that alleged action with the knife,
Right.
that's a crucial moment.
Yes.
Because it reframes the entire conflict.
Absolutely.
Now it's not just about money.
Right.
Now you've introduced the possibility of physical harm.
Right.
Now for Chaluvesh, regardless of what Nagesh's actual intent was with that knife,
Right.
he feels threatened.
Right.
This is a major escalation.
Right. And so you can imagine how the dynamic shifts there.
Yeah,
right.
really.
It goes from a financial obligation to, am I safe?
Right. Is this guy going to hurt me?
Yeah. Yeah. Is this guy going to hurt me? Am I being disrespected? And it appears that this perceived threat is what led Chaluvesh to seek out others in the village.
Right. And so instead of going through more conventional avenues
Right.
to resolve the debt or to address the perceived threat,
Right.
Chaluvesh rallies a group of villagers.
Right.
And that tells us something right off the bat.
Yeah.
Either he felt that this situation was so urgent
Yeah.
that it demanded a more immediate and forceful response,
Right.
or he felt that he had the backing of at least part of the community
Yeah.
to take this kind of action.
Right. And that leads to the very troubling scene of
Yeah.
Nagesh being tied to the village flagpole.
Imagine that.
It's such a striking image, right?
It's just that visual.
You have this man
Restraint.
vulnerable in the center of the village's attention. And the flagpole itself, I feel like that's more than just a convenient place to tie somebody up.
Right. The flagpole, it's not just a random object.
Right.
In many communities, a flagpole is a symbol of unity.
Yeah. Right. Of shared values.
Yeah, of a shared identity.
Right.
And so to use it in this way as a site for public humiliation and restraint,
Yeah.
that speaks volumes about the fact that that unity has fractured,
Right.
at least in that moment,
Yes.
that something has gone very wrong,
It's a very stark visual representation of what's going on in
it.
this community.
Turning against one of its own.
Yeah. And it wasn't just the act of being tied up.
Right.
We understand there was physical violence, slapping, hitting with sticks.
Yeah.
This wasn't just detaining Nagesh.
It was about punishment.
Right.
It was about pain.
Yeah, and asserting dominance in a very public way.
Absolutely.
And of course, we can't ignore the presence of technology here. This wasn't confined to just G-Bomb and Holly.
Yeah.
This was recorded on video.
Video cameras everywhere.
Yeah, and as we know these days, video spreads very quickly.
On social media.
Instantaneously.
Bringing a local incident to global attention.
And that's something we see more and more these days.
All the time.
Yeah. And this speed and reach of communication, it transforms these types of events.
Completely changes the game.
It really does. Something that would have been contained to the village before
A local matter.
is now suddenly public knowledge.
And that has consequences.
It does.
Legal consequences.
Yeah. But interestingly, there were also reports of compassion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Some people apparently offered Nagesh water
Okay.
and even tried to shield him.
Okay, so that's an interesting wrinkle.
It is.
Because it suggests that not everybody in that crowd was on board with what was happening.
Exactly.
Maybe some people thought it had gone too far.
Yeah.
Some people were having second thoughts.
Yeah, maybe they didn't approve of the violence or maybe they just felt bad for the guy.
Maybe.
Yeah, so it's a much more complex picture.
Yeah, it wasn't a simple mob mentality. There were divisions
Oh,
within the community.
Yeah, and maybe a conflict of conscience for some people.
Possibly, as the event unfolded.
Right, yeah. And
Yeah.
eventually Nagesh was released from the flagpole.
Okay.
But that's not where the story ends.
Of course not.
Because his wife plays a very important role in what happens next.
What does she do?
She reports the incident to the police.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a significant step because it moves away from this informal community mechanism and brings in the official legal system.
The authorities.
Yeah, the authorities, the state.
Yeah.
And it suggests that she believes that the situation had gone beyond what the village could or should handle.
Right, that this was
on its own.
A crime that needed to be investigated and punished by the law.
So now the police are actively investigating what happened in G-Bomb-Holly.
So they're going to be looking at a lot of things.
Right.
They're going to be talking to witnesses.
Yeah.
They're going to be examining the video evidence.
Right.
And they're going to be trying to figure out,
was
this a justifiable response or was this an act of vigilante justice?
Was it legal or was it illegal?
Exactly.
And determining the validity of this self-defense claim.
Right, because that's going to be key.
Right.
Did Nagesh really threaten Chaluvesh with a knife?
Right.
And if he did,
was it proportionate?
was the response of the villagers proportionate to that threat?
Right, because even if he did threaten him with a knife, does that justify tying him to a flagpole and beating him?
Right. That's what the police are going to have to figure out.
Yeah. But stepping back from the specifics of this case for a minute.
Okay.
This incident really highlights some deeper realities within communities like G-Bomb-Holly.
Well, especially rural communities.
Especially rural communities, right?
Yeah, where financial pressures can be huge.
Right.
And what might seem like a small amount of money to some people can be a very big deal.
Can be a very big deal.
To others.
Right. And it can be a source of serious tension. Yeah.
And you have to remember that in these close-knit rural economies, financial relationships are often intertwined with social standing and community bonds.
Right.
It's not just about the money.
It's about your reputation.
It's about respect.
Your relationships with your neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a debt isn't just a transaction in this context.
It's a promise.
It's a promise.
It's a social obligation.
It's a social obligation.
And if you break that promise, you're not just hurting the person you owe money to.
Right.
You're hurting the whole community.
Yeah. You're damaging that social fabric.
Exactly.
So maybe that explains why this dispute escalated so dramatically.
Yeah.
It may not have been just about the money.
It was about the principle.
Right.
It was about respect.
Yeah.
It was about saving face.
Right.
And sending a message.
Right. And that message was sent publicly.
Right. In the most dramatic way possible.
At the flagpole.
At the flagpole.
Yeah.
In front of every...
It was like they were trying to restore some kind of social equilibrium that had been disrupted.
Balance had been upset.
Right. By this unpaid debt and the alleged threat.
Right.
But the choice of the flagpole itself.
Yeah, I keep coming back to that. It's just so interesting.
Was it just convenient?
Was it symbolic?
Or was there a deeper meaning there?
Did it represent something specific to that village?
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to know more about the local context to say for sure.
Yeah.
But you can't help but wonder
if
there was more to it than just convenience.
It makes you think about other ways this conflict could have been resolved.
Right. Were there no other options?
Right.
No village elders?
No wise people.
No council?
Yeah, no other avenue for mediation.
Why did it have to come to this?
Why did it have to be so public?
Yeah. And so violent.
So humiliating.
Why couldn't they have talked it out?
Right.
Or gone to someone they both trusted?
Right.
To help them settle the dispute?
Was there some breakdown of trust?
Maybe people didn't trust those traditional methods anymore.
Or maybe they felt like the knife changed everything.
That it demanded a more immediate and public response.
Right. And it's impossible to ignore the role of technology in this whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it was recorded and shared so widely adds another layer of complexity.
That's not just a local event anymore.
Right.
It's a global event.
It subjects this community and the people involved to a level of scrutiny that they've never experienced before.
And it could have real consequences for them.
Yeah, it could influence the police investigation.
Absolutely.
It could affect how the public sees them.
It could damage their reputation.
Yeah, and it could even have legal ramifications down the road.
Yeah, it's a whole new ballgame.
So to sum it all up,
we
have a financial disagreement in a small village in India.
Right.
That escalates into this public act of violence and humiliation.
A man tied to a flagpole.
Tied to a flagpole, assaulted.
Humiliated.
Humiliated in front of everyone.
And it's all caught on video.
And it's shared all over the world.
Shared instantly.
Instantly.
Everyone to see. And now the police are involved.
The legal system is engaged.
Trying to make sense of it all.
Right. Trying to sort out the truth.
And decide who's right and who's wrong.
And ultimately, what justice looks like in this situation.
Yeah. It's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. But it leaves us with some pretty big questions.
Yeah, like what does this incident tell us about how we handle conflict?
Right.
Especially in communities.
In communities where, traditions and modern life are kind of intertwined.
Good times.
Yeah. And what are the dangers of taking justice into your own hands?
Right.
Especially when emotions run so high.
Mob mentality.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous thing.
And how does technology affect all this?
Yeah.
Right? This ability to record and share everything so quickly.
Does it make things better or worse?
Does it hold people accountable?
Or does it just make things more chaotic?
Or both.
Probably both.
Yeah. It's complicated.
It's complicated.
That's for sure.
It's a reminder that even in the quietest corners of the world, these traumatic events can happen.
Yeah.
And they really make us think about how we manage our disagreements.
And where we draw the line.
And where we draw the line between individual action and collective action.
Right.
And the rule of law.
And tradition. Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It really is. And it makes you wonder what the long-term impact on G-Bum and Holly is going to be.
Yeah.
And on the people who were involved.
I don't think things will ever be quite the same.
I don't think so either.
No.